I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Open up my eyes! I never misspelled anything! Not once, not one time!
Battlefield Earth. Never in my life did I ever want to say that title in a video on my channel, but I started a segment entitled Hilariocity Reviews in which I talk about films that are such atrocities they're hilarious, and so it's my own fault. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you would have seen that over the past few days, I have actually been attempting to watch Battlefield Earth in its entirety. It took me 2 days, over the course of like 3 to 4 sittings, to finish this movie. I think I watched about 17 minutes of it before I said, nope, can't take it anymore, off. Later that day, I watched about another 20 minutes of it, and I couldn't take it anymore, I had to turn it off again. This is a true story. I actually sat down with my fiance, and she encouraged me to finish it. Like, she had to give me, like, Yoda advice. She was like, it will be fine, do it, do not, there is no try, you told them you do it. I was like, I know, honey, I'm trying. But thankfully, I finished the film, took about 10 pages of notes, and here I am to talk about one of the worst films ever made. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Chris, how is this a hilariosity? It's so bad, you had such a hard time watching it. Isn't it supposed to be entertaining if you think it's a hilariosity? In all honesty, Battlefield Earth inhabits a different section of the Hilariocity review. It's a film that as you watch it, you begin to be in such awe at the fact that it actually exists on this earth, and it just becomes so funny when you actually imagine someone filming the damn thing and saying, yeah, that's the shot I like, we'll use that one. Nevertheless, a quick backstory about this film. John Travolta really wanted to make this film because he is a Scientologist, and the book is written by the founder of Scientology. This man wanted John Travolta to make this movie for many years. He wanted the film to be in the vein of Star Wars, and John Travolta, it was like a passion project. He just wanted it to be made so bad. The movie opens and it says Battlefield Earth, a saga of the year 3000. It's almost like they decided, okay, we're not going to use that subtitle. They just wanted to call it Battlefield Earth, but they had already rendered the title screen, so they couldn't go back and change it because that cost money. Something these filmmakers clearly didn't have much of. And the movie is called Battlefield Earth, but in my opinion, it should just be called Evil Laughter the Movie, because that's all this movie is. It's a whole bunch of scenes in which it ends with somebody going, Now, before I get into talking about what actually happens in this movie, I feel the need to inform you that basically every shot in this film is at a Dutch angle. Slanted, a 45-degree angle, however you want to call it. Every single shot, almost, in this film is like that. If you saw Thor and thought there was too much of that in there, go watch Battlefield Earth. Thor is going to be like a drop in the bucket compared to Battlefield Earth. Every single shot in this film looks so incredibly ugly that it just makes your eyes bleed. The movie opens with Barry Pepper and he's sliding down a hill on a horse, or a stuntman is anyway. He returns to his small little village in which mankind is just almost nearly extinct. We learn that because of a quick little sentence that pops up on the screen to explain it to us. He wasn't able to find any food or any supplies of any kind. He talks to this girl that you immediately kind of guess she's a girlfriend or something. There's nothing there. There's no depth of any kind. It's just a girl, and you're supposed to be like, okay, she's a girl and he's a guy, so they must be together. He gets very upset and throws a rock or something into the air with this horribly audio dubbed scream and this horrifically badly framed shot, and then we get our first wipe. Yeah, every single scene in this movie ends with a wipe cut. Every one of them. There's maybe like one or two that doesn't, but most of them just go bloop. It was like they watched Star Wars and were like, hey, there's a lot of cool wipes and transitions in that movie. Let's just do that because that's why Star Wars was good, right? Because it had cool transitions. So he's in his cave with some of his fellow men, and they're all scared of these demons, these things that are apparently outside that are keeping them from venturing beyond their cave. And he decides to get up and do some sort of intense dramatic display for his fellow men in regards to this whole thing about there being demons out there.
Has anyone here ever seen one? A demon! A monster! A beast! Yeah!
I don't understand the purpose of that. But that's just the start. More things happen. So our hero, Barry Pepper, whose name is Johnny, by the way, like the most conventional hero name ever for the year 3000 for a cave-dwelling man who's afraid of demons outside his house. His name's Johnny. He decides to venture out because he doesn't believe all that stuff. He wants to go see what else is out there, and he's on his horse and everything, and just to let you know, every set in this movie or location looks like complete shit. He comes across these two guys who are very hostile, and I gotta say, this scene had me holding my sides doubled over from laughing. What I don't get about this guy who I'm gonna call the monkey guy for the rest of this review, later in the film and throughout even this scene, he speaks perfect English, and yet he makes monkey noises constantly. It's crazy, and you wonder why the fucking aliens call them man animals throughout the whole movie. So these guys are going on and on about the fact that there are gods everywhere. You can see them everywhere. They've done things to people. They've frozen people while they stand. The thing that confuses me is it took him like not even a day to ride out there on his horse, and he's in awe of everything he sees. Are you seriously telling me that no one in that cave of people even decided to venture out and look around them even less than a day's ride? Now, extremely abruptly, this little green laser beam like wisps into one of the guys and he just blows backwards. And you see that this dreadlocked alien creature is shooting them with these little beams. They're like this big. Honestly, a CGI laser beam is one of the easiest things for a CGI artist to create. I did it on fucking Microsoft Paint when I was a teenager for one of my stupid little Star Wars short films. I actually had little I did it on Microsoft Paint, and they looked better than these things in Battlefield Earth. So Johnny gets shot by one of these beams and he blasts through all this glass in this horrible slow-mo frame rate Matrix attempt to copy off the Matrix. And that's another thing I want to talk about, because this movie came out in the year 2000. And it's very clear that filmmakers saw The Matrix while making this movie and thought, we need to rip that off because that's all we have. I'll get to it more, but there are so many moments in this movie that just look like they're attempting to copy off The Matrix, especially with the slow motion. But the problem is the slow motion is so poorly done. You can tell that not every scene that's in slow motion was meant to be in slow motion when they filmed it, because they're not filming it at a frame rate that makes slow motion look good. They're filming it at a normal frame rate and then in post trying to slow it down, except it looks like garbage because it wasn't filmed at a frame rate that actually supports slow motion. So you can actually tell that it's like they were watching The Matrix while filming Battlefield Earth and were like, oh my gosh, this is the next big thing. This is what we need to do. And so they slow-moed like everything, but it looks like shit. So Johnny gets imprisoned in this ship and he gets transported to Jamaica. I'm calling it Jamaica because everyone there has dreadlocks and there's lots of drugs and alcohol going around and quite a bit of firearms. That's racist. Okay. So Johnny kills one of them by screaming. And then he tries to flee. And as he's running, you can just see him like flailing his arms like this. And I'm like, who fucking runs like that? No one fucking runs like that ever. Sorry, I'm saying words I don't usually say. This movie it's a movie. Johnny slips and falls, and this is when we meet John Travolta's character, Turl. And he's wearing stilts. Everyone in this movie who is an alien wears stilts. It's so obvious, too, because the way they walk, they're just like, Oh, it's like, oh my god, I'm wearing stilts right now. I hope no one notices. So Turl actually gives Johnny a gun. He's like, here, just a gun. Just take it. I don't know why. And then Johnny's like, he just glares at everyone. He could have shot them all, including John Travolta, the main villain. He could have just shot him right there. John Travolta doesn't have some special shield or something. He could have just shot him right there. There was no Scientology shield of any kind that could have activated that moment. He could have just shot him. But he doesn't. He just glares at him. And finally, he decides to kill, of course, some random little minion side character. And then he just gets in a headlock. And that's it. Worst hero ever. And of course, they all laugh. Evilly. So Travolta meets up with this movie's version of the Emperor from Return of the Jedi, and they have a quick little discussion about how John Travolta is going to be transferring out of this place soon, and they want to blow up Earth afterwards, and of course, they have a laugh about it. Evilly.
Let's exterminate the lot of them.
Oh, you're too much!
But soon poor Johnny learns that his transfer request was declined, and more evil laughter ensues.
We've decided to keep you here for another 50 cycles. With endless options for renewal. With endless options for renewal. With endless options for renewal.
We decided to keep you on for 50 cycles, with endless options for renewal. Endless options for renewal. Endless options for renewal. So in the next scene, we have John Travolta at a bar, and he's being served a drink by a cone head. So these guys are called cyclos. They hate humans, they refer to them as man animals, and yet they follow quite a bit of human customs, like having bars and getting drunk and even speaking the English language. Now that language thing is a little confusing in this movie, isn't it? If you've watched this movie, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes they'll just be speaking their cyclo language and then all of a sudden they're speaking English. Sometimes it mixes together. And then there are times when there are subtitles on the screen. It's like they can't decide to let us know if they're just speaking English for fun or if they're speaking cyclo right now and we're just hearing English. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing in this movie makes sense. Half this movie is Travolta at a bar drinking some sort of green fluid. I'm not kidding. He's upset he's not getting transferred. And he gets so upset with Forrest Whitaker and he goes on this rant about, before you were even learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies. It's just amazing to me that this dialogue was written, you know, and then performed by a man who looks like that, and filmed by professionals who said that's the one we're gonna put in the movie.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
The wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
Spell your name!
Adele Dazeem.
Yeah, I went there. So we finally cut back to our hero who's imprisoned and he's fighting for green food while he wears green clothes and people with green eyes watch. We get it. Green stuff. You like the look of green, the green filter for all of these scenes. We get it. The Matrix happened. The Matrix was awesome. Quit copying off of it, please, thanks. Now we get a couple random scenes in which the villains talk about random blah 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 crap in which they are trying to get to a point that progresses the plot. I've seen this done in really horrible movies where they're like, in this scene, a character needs to do this, but we need to stretch out the runtime, so we'll just have them talk about random stuff the whole time, right? Okay, that's what we'll do. They just keep talking about stuff that actually has absolutely nothing to do with the plot at all, and then at the end, John Travolta will be like, oh, by the way, it'd be nice if man animals mined for us, wouldn't it? Oh, you don't like that idea? Well, I like it a lot. But seriously, John Travolta wants humans to learn how to mine so they can find more gold.
What if we were to train them how to mine?
Man animals operating machinery.
And everyone just doubts him instantly. I'm like, you guys are currently living around the rubble of mankind. Later in the film, they go to a library that is filled with mankind's history. They clearly never really got too much into reading that. They should be able to realize that humans are capable of doing shit. And they just keep doubting them all the time because they're so stupid. Worst villains ever! So we see Johnny marching with the other prisoners and some random collapse of some kind happens on a structure that gives him a chance to escape and run around in slow motion, of course, with this horrible droning score in the background. And then he gets shot by a sound effect. We don't even see the beam this time. It's like they didn't even take the time to animate the beam. And the funny thing is that, like, throughout this movie, the humans are always like, we're worth something. These people are disrespecting us and everything. And then they just start screaming like apes and monkeys the whole time. And you're like, no wonder they call you man animals, you idiots. You're like freaking monkeys over there. Oh. oh, oh. That's seriously what they do throughout this whole movie. It's just, oh, 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 oh. Oh, Battlefield Earth! This next scene is so nuts. Like, I don't get it. John Travolta decides, I think, that he thinks Johnny is resourceful. So he decides to somehow transport him and two other people to this icy mountain to search for food so that he can learn what humans' favorite food is so that he can persuade them to do things for him. How is this relevant? How is this fucking do anything? Like, I just don't get it. What does that have to do with anything? If he wants to find out what humans' favorite food are, you could just walk up and say, what do you want to eat? I just turned to Bill Cosby. What do you want to eat? Do you want the chocolate cake? Do you want the chocolate cake for breakfast? Chocolate cake, milk, eggs. That's nutrition. Jello pudding pops. I just went on the biggest tangent of a Bill Cosby impression in my life. I am not editing that out. I am keeping it in this video. I do not care. But seriously, I don't even understand what the point of this scene is. It just cuts and all of a sudden he's like, yes, they've been out there for 3 days. They've got to be hungry by now. What? Like, we were just in another scene. Did they somehow just teleport out there and all of a sudden they've been out there for 3 days on this icy mountain? They'd eat anything. And of course, they find a rat. And so he's like, rats, that's what they like. Yes, rats. We'll feed them rats. That will persuade them to do something, because we're evil. But this scene ends in a great way, so at least there's that. Check this out.
Ah! Crap, lousy ceiling! I thought I told you to get some man animals in here and fix it!
First off, hitting his head on the ceiling is amazing, but then Forrest Whitaker's like slow-mo turn, smile, wipe, cut. It's pretty amazing, but I don't understand why it's there. All of a sudden we have a scene that's actually shot normally. I don't get where it came from, but of course a ship comes down and Johnny throws a stick at it. Worst hero ever. So Travolta grabs Johnny and we're like, oh my gosh, are we actually about to see some menace? Some real villainy? A scene that actually makes John Travolta out to be an actual villain? No, he's just gonna leave the room while Johnny has some machine teach him stuff about Cyclo. Because clearly the way to deal with your enemy is to educate them on everything. Make them smarter and make them better at everything that they weren't good at before. Worst villains in a movie of all time. So next, basically, Johnny becomes the Rain Man of man animals. That's right, he's drawing shapes on the ground, he's just pulling facts out of his head, he knows everything, facts are spurting all over the place.
See, I learned something called molecular biology. This is the symbol for water.
So this machine could teach molecular biology, but it can't teach the damn Cyclos what humans' favorite foods are. Again, what was the purpose of this food scene? Why did they have to be stranded on an ice mountain for 3 days just to eat a rat and John Travolta to go, oh, their favorite food is rat, that's it, brother. Ah. So next in his continuing string to educate his enemy on everything, John Travolta takes his character to a library filled with books that have been in the open air for 1,000 years. Of course, these books are in pretty good shape. It has got some dust on them. Yeah, that would never happen. So all of a sudden, these group of forest freaks just burst out of the forest, and they're basically the Ewoks of this film. And you can really just see all the ways they were trying to copy off of Star Wars throughout this movie. For a second, Johnny gets the upper hand. He has the gun pointed directly at Travolta. He's sitting there with the gun pointed at him, and Travolta's like, didn't you learn anything about your species? Humans were the only species ever to hunt animals for sport. So he knows about human history, about how we hunted animals for sport. Don't you think he'd know about how we hunted animals for food too? And that our favorite food isn't rats? I'm gonna keep pointing back to that because that is the dumbest scene in this movie. Nothing in that scene makes sense. Nothing about it makes sense. Nothing. Nothing in that scene makes sense. Not a thing.
We fight! You're fighting the beast. Me and my men are with you.
In like 2 seconds, Johnny convinces everyone to fight against the Cyclos, including these forest freaks we met exactly 1 minute ago. We know nothing about these people. They just burst out of the woods. They're like, hey, we're here in the movie too. What do you guys want to do? Hey, let's go to a war. Okay, let's do it. Oh, cool. Who are you? I don't fucking know who you are. Let's be in a war together. Okay, let's do it. That's the scene. That's the scene. That is the scene. They just are like, hey, who are you? I don't know. Who are you? Let's do it. Let's go. Then he gives the gun back to John Travolta. He just gives it to him. He does like this cheesy flip. And he like hands it to him and he gives it back, resulting in another man getting his head blown off by Turl. And then he sees his girlfriend's been captured. The girlfriend we met for 1 minute in the beginning of the movie. Worst hero ever. So next we have a scene in which John Travolta once again is kind of getting drunk at a bar, because that's all he does is lounge around at a bar and drink.
I am going to make you as happy as a baby cyclo on a straight diet of Grabango.
What? During this portion of the movie, I actually paused it and I said to myself, this entire movie is about John Travolta's character trying to get noticed. That's it. He just wants attention. His big sinister scheme is he wants people to look at him. That's it. So Travolta leaves him and some other humans on a mountain to mine for some of this gold, and he's like, I'm gonna be watching you, and you see some drone fly over and he has like some little thing that says, this is me watching you, and okay, I guess he's watching him. I don't know what that means because the drone flew over and then we get like a still image. I don't get it. This movie should not have been called Battlefield Earth. There's no battling in this movie. It's like the last 10 minutes of it are battling, and this movie's called Battlefield Earth. It should have been called Evil Laughter and the Day John Travolta Wanted to Get Noticed. So all of a sudden the humans decide, you know what, we're gonna fly to Fort Knox. The safe is open in Fort Knox. It's open. And the gold is all perfect. Perfect. It is pristine. Again, the safe is open in Fort Knox. And their gold is perfect. I don't understand. I did Bill Cosby again. The gold is perfect. I don't understand what's going on in this movie. What does that? How? How? And I thought John Travolta was watching them. Apparently they were able to fly to Fort Knox and take some gold, and he didn't notice. Worst villain ever. So they meet up with the random forest freak people to plan their revolt. Again, what was with the intro of those characters? They burst out of the woods, went, hey, you're cool. Hey, you're pretty cool too. Hey, let's be in a war together. Now they're in a war, I guess. They're planning their revolt, and we're supposed to be into it. So the Rain Man of Man Animals is talking to the forest freaks and his friends, and they're like, we need to get to the radiation bomb storage in Texas. How the fuck do these people know what he's talking about? They're monkeys! They don't know what he's talking about! They're just like, yeah, the radiation bomb storage, okay? How the fuck do they know that? They're monkeys! Again, what was the point of giving Johnny all that knowledge at that knowledge machine? It is the dumbest script writing I've ever encountered in my life. It's like, okay, we have a dumb, stupid hero and a dumb, stupid villain. We'll give him a knowledge machine to make him smart, because that's the only way we can get him to be a cool enough hero to do anything. He doesn't earn any of this knowledge. He just sits there and goes, oh, as a machine feeds him knowledge. And apparently, all of a sudden, he's a really smart guy. And it's so stupid. It's such a stupid writing point. You don't care at all about this guy. He sat in a chair and all of a sudden, he's a cool badass and he can do stuff. Yes, the Matrix. I know, the Matrix. He plugged into the Matrix. He learned Kung Fu. I know. Battlefield Earth just doesn't understand how to do it right. Plus, in the Matrix, you actually see him training in his mind, so it worked. So they get these jets, because he knows where jets are, and of course, the jet fuel is absolutely fine after 1,000 years, and of course, all the lights are on in the area. Now, let me ask you a question. Where in the hell is this electricity coming from? It's been 1,000 years since mankind's extinction. There's jet fuel that survives, books that aren't rubble, and electricity is still around for us to harness into light bulbs. And of course, Fort Knox's safe was wide open with all the gold in it. So Forrest Whitaker's character is convinced by Johnny that Travolta's just been using him this whole time, you think? And when he tries to blackmail John Travolta's character, apparently John Travolta had killed the bartender, who was the only other person that Forrest Whitaker gave a copy of John Travolta's security footage of him being a dick, and somehow Travolta knew that, cut off the bartender's head and placed it in the exact room that Forrest Whitaker would be in when Forrest Whitaker said, "I know what you're up to." How did that happen? He's such a dumb villain and he can somehow teleport and do all these things. It's amazing. And then he shoots off Forrest Whitaker's hand. And apparently these people don't feel any pain. So the humans begin to enact their revolt. And of course, all the explosives they have say explosives on it. Might as well just say Acme. Just make it a Looney Tunes episode already. Finally, the battle in Battlefield Earth starts. And it is an incredibly slow motion Matrix ripoff shootout that looks exactly like the lobby shootout scene in The Matrix, except without any skill, style, of any kind. It just looks horrible. Now here come the forest Ewok monkey people, and they're flying these 1,000-year-old jets. Yeah, they became expert fighter pilots in 7 days. So they attempt to blow up the glass that's surrounding this place because the aliens can't breathe the air or they have to do those stupid things in their nose. Whatever. It doesn't break all the way, it just cracks. John Travolta's like, "Kill all man animals, shoot at will, do whatever you want. Avoid even letting it spell your name, blah, 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 blah." Now in the middle of this scene when some of these humans are dying, you hear in the background this really muffled voice go, "They're killing us." I was like, someone actually recorded that and put it in the movie. It was kind of like in the older SpongeBob episodes where explosions would be happening and in the background you'd hear, "My leg." It was exactly like that. So the monkey guy blows himself up with all of the explosions that he, for whatever reason, did not initially use to blow the dome that just so happened to be in his ship. He kills himself, raining thousands upon thousands of shards of glass upon everyone, humans and cyclos. Great plan. So one random guy opts to sacrifice himself and he teleports himself to the planet Cyclo with a bomb, blows up the planet Cyclo instantly somehow. Travolta and Johnny are having like this fight in horrible slow-mo close-up. It's so bad. It's like Alex Cross bad. Johnny tricks Travolta into blowing up his own arm, and of course these people apparently they just don't feel pain, I guess. The humans have a cringe-inducing scene in which they mourn their losses, and then the girlfriend runs to him in slow motion and they hug and the music is all orchestral in the background. It's really, really bad. So now they've got John Travolta sans one arm imprisoned around his gold. And of course, it's almost like his entire character's arc revolves around his changing laughter. So Forrest Whitaker shows up and he's on the human side now because John Travolta was a dick to him throughout the whole movie. And guess what he does? So what exactly did John Travolta accomplish with this movie? Well, he wanted more attention and glory for himself. He didn't get it. So he captured some humans, taught them knowledge, which led to them revolting against him and imprisoning him. Worst villain ever. And he still couldn't figure out that humans don't like to eat rat. Battlefield Earth is an incredibly awful movie. But as you watch it, you begin to laugh at the fact that this thing actually exists on Earth. This movie was actually made and shown in theaters around the world. This thing actually happened. It is so incredibly bad in every way. There is not one good thing about this movie. Not the production design, the script, the directing, the acting. Not even the musical score is good. Like, even when you have a bad movie, at least a composer can come in and be like, I'm gonna at least try to make a good score for this movie. But it's just this endless string of sounds that are meant to in some way make some of the scenes bearable, but it doesn't. It's just this droning noise throughout the movie. Everything in Battlefield Earth is bad. But it's fun to watch because there isn't really another movie like this out there. Guys, I love doing these Hilariocity reviews. What did you think of Battlefield Earth if you saw it? I actually know someone who doesn't hate this movie, so they're out there, man. Thanks as always for watching, guys. And if you like this review, you can click right here and get Stuckmannized.